Good morning to all the participants from Dubai. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of this webinar today. So, global tourism will pick up growth again in the post-pandemic period, providing new chances and new challenges. The chances are that to invest in the tourism sector and to create quality jobs and regional development, there is a need for tourism destinations to increase quality and satisfaction of all stakeholders involved by providing meaningful tourism. HATT Business School Institute offers a global learning platform for continuous and accredited professional trainings based on the cooperation with relevant partners, providing creative, global, regional, and sectorial curriculum development. Therefore, today it gives me absolute pleasure to invite everyone to join us on a journey for this webinar, the two biggest tourism markets in the world, understanding the Chinese and the Muslim travelers. Today, I just want to say that I've got an amazing lineup of speakers. Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Arlt. He is the founding dean of the HATT Business School Institute, and Mr. Fazal Bahardeen, of the CEO of the CrescentRating, a very critical partner of ours through this journey. So the Chinese and Muslim travel markets combined are worth a total of more than USD 400 billion. Through this seminar or webinar, we hope to discover that how to prepare ourselves to unlock the potential of these markets today for the post-pandemic era. Just to give you a sense, the key drivers of the Muslim outbound travel market growth is growing Muslim population, disposable income, growing middle class, younger population, and everything in between. And the key drivers of the Chinese outbound travel market growth are largest population in the world, disposable income, growing upper middle class, increasing access to travel information, and so forth. I'm really, really hoping that through our two guests and the panel today, that we understand the nuances that are involved in engaging and getting the best out of these segments, because we are today in the post-pandemic era, we are looking for something different, something unique, and to do and basically how to create new segments and new opportunities, because the old rule book doesn't apply anymore. So the new avenues of understanding perhaps the same product, this webinar hopefully can open that potential for us. I also want to mention here that please, for all of our guests, please hold your questions, put them into the chat box, and we will answer them towards the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I would like to now invite Professor Wolfgang to do his presentation to us.
Okay, thank you very much, Sumaira, and a warm welcome to everybody from Hamburg in Germany. And today I have to wear two hats at the same time. Because, of course, on the one hand, I'm proud to be the founding dean of HATT Business School Institute, of the World Tourism Forum Institute. But today I'm speaking in my other capacity, which is being the CEO of COTRI, China Outbound Tourism Research Institute, because we are talking today about the two biggest markets in terms of turnover, which is the Chinese market and the Muslim market. And so I've been talking about the Chinese market for many years and will continue to do so. So let me see if I can share my screen with you. Just a second. That should be it. Yes. Oops. So, my presentation has the title, Getting It Right the Second Time, a meaningful tourism approach for the post-pandemic Chinese outbound tourism source market. And as Sumaira just said, we are hopefully coming close to the post-pandemic times, and we can see that the numbers in most parts of the world are going down. Also, just in the last few days, the Chinese government has been making some positive noises about the question when China will allow its citizens to travel again internationally. So we can look forward to this, but we have to use, as Sumaira just said, this opportunity which was brought to us through the challenge of the pandemic, to not to go back to the bad old times, but to do something better. So very quickly, what is COTRI? So China Outbound Tourism Research Institute is concentrating on looking on mainland Chinese travelers around the world, and has a history of 17 years. So I started this in 2004, when the market was still very small. But of course, since 2012 already, it has been the biggest market in the world. So also very briefly, so I've been traveling in China for more than 4 decades and have been working with China and tourism for a long time. And so until last year, I've been teaching for 20 years at universities, international tourism management, and now I'm concentrating on my 2 jobs. That's quite enough, working as a CEO of COTRI and working as a founding dean of HATT BSI. So as you probably are aware, that in quantitative terms, China Outbound Tourism has been very successful. It was the last decade the biggest international tourism source market, and for many destinations in the area, it was actually the main source of tourists, and for many long distance destinations, it was at least the main long distance market. And by 2019, we were up to a level that 1 out of 9 international trips originated in mainland China. So you may have seen this graphs before, so that in 2018 and in 19 was about the same level. There were about 280 billion US dollars spent by Chinese travelers, and we had about 170 million outbound trips in that year, 2019. So, and what happened, of course, over the time is that the sophistication of the travelers has been increasing, and that the special interest trips were becoming more important. And also we saw in 2019 more young people, more children, and also more senior citizens, best ages, joining international travel. And also it is no longer a privilege of first-tier city people, but also lower people living in lower tier cities, are joining us as well. And of course, there's a lot of information available, and during the pandemic, the Chinese had now more than a year to look at all the nice videos and all the information about different destinations. And when traveling now, you have this automatic translation gadget, so language problem is also less of a problem than before. But, and there's a big but, so we can see that there has been a strong concentration on quantitative KPIs, so arrival numbers as the holy grail. But if we look more closely, as we have been doing in our work for many years, there has been the problem of low yield, so that most people are complaining in the industry, while we have a lot of customers, but we don't earn much money from them. And on the other hand, that the Chinese customers have been complaining that they don't feel that the services are done in a way which is the way they like. So not enough product adaptation, not enough products for their taste and their interest and their expectations. So and also we saw as a result of this that many Chinese tourists would go to the main places at the main time of the year, looking at the main site, so creating or being part of the creation of over-tourism. And the other point which we have been seeing clearly is that when you talk to people, and still for many it's still the same, when you talk about the Chinese market, people automatically start to talk about marketing. and marketing being simply a promotion. So, and people are very happy, very proud. Oh, we have a WeChat account. We do some Chinese messages on Chinese social media. But I just put a current example of the ranking, and you can see that on the right-hand side, only 3 NTOs actually got more than 10,000 views for a post on WeChat within 1 week. And 10,000 views for China is absolutely nothing. So normally a successful post is millions of views or even tens of millions of views. So a lot of money is spent, and most of it is actually wasted because very few Chinese are looking at this official government information. They rather listen to their peers, and they rather listen to recommendations by their friends. So actually, marketing, many of you might remember from the university times, they're the famous 4P from COTRI, and this is not only promotion, but now this has been reduced mostly to promotion. And as the products are not very well adapted and also more or less the same, the Chinese tour operators have been very much concentrating on price, pushing down the price, because this is how they compete in the market. So this has been the situation before the pandemic struck, and so we have now to see how can we get out of this trap. So after the pandemic, clearly the appetite for international travel has not changed. So all the surveys show that, like everybody in the world, the Chinese are eagerly waiting when they can travel again. The main question is when the quarantine will be lifted, so that you don't have to go to 2 weeks quarantine when you come back to China. And also, of course, you can see that as a result of the pandemic, there are new needs and expectations and new travel forms. So Chinese are more interested in nature, in family travel, in self-drive, so using RVs and so on. All this has been developing, and so the point now is, and this is what HATT BSI and the CTT trainings offered by COTRI in HATT BSI is trying to do, is to help people to do product adaptation so that the visitors are more happy about what they get, and therefore then will have more interest in recommending what you have. So we can see that also, for instance, the group size is changing, more families are traveling, and the good news for many places is that many Chinese people say, oh, we want to go to new places, we want to go to smaller places. We don't necessarily have to go to Paris or London or Dubai, sorry to say, but it's more about local culture, authenticity, sustainability. So therefore, concentration on quality, on satisfied customers, also satisfied hosts, on recommendations, and on yield. This is what we have to look at. And for this concept, we have developed something called meaningful tourism. And I'm happy to say that the China Daily, in an article 2 days ago, also took up this concept. And this is basically saying that it is quality and taking into account the interest of everybody involved, including also the host, for instance, and the environment, of course, is there. So that might be something after sustainable tourism and responsible tourism. I think now the time has come for meaningful tourism. And so, well, I don't have time to go into detail here, but just to say, so the 5 dimensions are, of course, economy, ecology, society. That's what you know from sustainable tourism and also institutions. That is what Responsible Tourism Act added. And I think now it's time to talk about quality and not just about quantity. So, and we have, for this, we have a program which is also done in cooperation with HATT Business School Institute, which is called Advantage Tourism, where we are working and have been working already with some national tourism organizations to help to get a new strategy and a new way of interacting with the market. So, which means not returning to the situation before, where we had a downward spiral of over tourism, diminishing yield, dissatisfied visitors, and also more environmental degradation. But so instead, looking at meaningful tourism, and also taking into account that for the majority of travelers, certainly Chinese travelers on long-haul trips, it's not about recreation. It's not about hanging out on a beach doing nothing, but it's about meeting local people, learning about local culture, having experiences. So Dr. Taleb Rifai, who is the Secretary General of WTFI and also the former Secretary General of UWTO, of course, has been saying many times, there's no return to the old normal, but we have to move forward to a new, better normal. And Mario Hardy, who until very recently was a CEO of Qatar, has been saying also that the future of tourism will depend more on length of stay and visitor satisfaction than on a simple headcount of arrivals. And this is what we are talking about, and this is what we try in our trainings to help people to move forward through. And just recently, Petra Hedorfer, who is for many years the CEO of the German National Tourism Board, wrote to me confirming also her point of view. Yes, tailor-made offers, specific targeting, and reshaped offers for the new mindset, including community management, are essential. So you don't have to take just my word for it. So to close with an outlook, winners and losers. So China certainly will remain the #1 tourism source market in the world by 2030. Probably 1 out of 5 international travels will start in mainland China. What has changed is it's not enough anymore just to open the door and wait for the Chinese to come. The Chinese have higher expectations than before based on their increased experience. Also, the competition is growing. Domestic tourism in China became much more important and gained bragging power. So, which means there is a great opportunity for more destinations and new service providers, but this has to be based not on just spending lots of money on Chinese social media marketing, but rather on spending this money on helping the industry in product adaptation. So for the empowerment of service providers and also the administrators in tourism ministries and so on. So there, we offer the China Tourism Training CTT, which we do together with the Polytechnical University of Hong Kong. Okay, sorry for the interruption. And so this is the training, and for the long-term successful strategy, we have the Advantage Tourism Program, which is also done in cooperation, of course, with HATT BSI. So that's all from me. If you need more information, so we have a free weekly publication, COTRI Weekly. You're welcome to subscribe to this, and of course, otherwise you can contact me at COTRI, and of course you can contact me also at the HATT BSI. Okay, and so this is all from me. So back to you, Sumaira.
Thank you so much. I'm just listening to you and about the potential of this Chinese market, and it's quite incredible. I remember, Professor, that I had read about you before I even knew you. In one of the articles you had said that you used to have an ice cube machine on every floor in a good hotel for the Americans. Now you have to have a hot water kettle for the I presume for the Chinese tea in there. So it's quite clear, that the potential for a decade China outbound market has been the driving force of an unflinchingly optimistic global travel industry. Do you think in the post-pandemic era, this trend will continue, or has China lost some of that shine? Will the countries still welcome the Chinese tourists the way they used to? What impact this will have, the
Yes.
COVID-19?
No, that is of course the key question. And well, there are some places, unfortunately, like the United States, where you had this Asian hate crimes, where people were blaming the Chinese for spreading the virus and stuff like that. But I think this is something which will pass. And fortunately, I can say in Europe we don't have this problem to any bigger degree. And certainly, also I think in Asia it's not the case. So yes, what I also tried to say in my presentation, there has been some disenchantment with the Chinese market because it was a huge number of arrivals, but at the end of the day, not much money left in the pocket of the service providers, and also sometimes annoying the local people who saw that there are already so many tourists and now the Chinese are coming on top of it. So this is why to have a successful engagement, it is about product adaptation. And the good news is, just one point, is that for many destinations, the Chinese do not have a fixed idea what to do there. So if so I'm a German, and Germans are going to Spain in the summer for the beach. And it's quite hard to convince a German to go to Spain, to the inland areas in winter or in other seasons. So because everybody knows you go there for swimming, and that it has to be summer, it has to be beach. So for the Chinese, if you tell them what interesting things are there and you adapt the product to the way they would like to have it, there's a much bigger chance to convince them to come at other times of the year and also to go to other parts of the country. So, but this is not automatically. This is, you have first to invest some time into product development and product adaptation. So this is now the key job to be done. And of course, you and me, we will try to help the tourism industry in getting the necessary empowerment and information needed for that.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor. This has been very, very insightful. Moving on to our next guest and our panel member here, talking about the potential of the halal tourism and how it's reshaping the global tourism industry. And I will leave the big numbers for Fazal to talk about, but the spending by the Muslim travelers is expected to rise, was expected to rise to an incredible 220 billion by 2020. I don't know what the latest figures are, so the scale and the size of this market is incredible. And I think the world was just beginning to understand or the tip of the iceberg of this segment, and then the pandemic hit. Fazal, give us some insights. Why the potential of this market is so strong? Introduce us to it.
Yeah, thanks, Sumaira. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks, Professor, for organizing the webinar. So I'm going to sort of, I think most of the audience here are probably slightly new to this market. So it's I will try and sort of put it together 10 points that you should know about the Muslim market. But happy to take questions if you want some deeper understanding of it. I think the first question, as you mentioned, Sumaira, is the market size. So we have been tracking the market since 2008. That's when we started almost 12 years ago. And this market has grown hugely. If you look at year 2000, we estimated there were about 25 million Muslim international visitors. To 2018, our estimate was 140 million. So it also, it went up by almost 6 times within a period of 18 years. And our estimate for 2020 was 160 million. Of course, 2020 didn't happen, not just for the Muslim market, for everybody. And as Sumaira mentioned, our estimate for travel expenditure was about $220 billion. And we know for sure that it didn't happen. And the projection that we made for 2026 was about 230 million travelers spending about $300 billion. Now, I think the big question now is, will that projection still stand based on all the disruptions that's happened in 2020 and 2021? Probably it'll continue in 2022 as well. So we are, this is an annual report that we do with MasterCard, where this is called the Global Muslim Travel Index. That report that we have been releasing every year since 2015, except last year. We paused this report in 2020 because of the COVID situation. And then we are releasing the 2021 GMTI 2021 on the middle of July. That's about a month's time, where we are going to re-estimate the numbers and the projections. So you'll have our estimates of how the next phase of Muslim market will grow post-pandemic in our report that we are going to publish in July, middle of July. So just hold on. However, having said that, this market will continue to play a key role, whatever the growth trajectory is, because the simple fact of the Muslim population is already about 23-24% of the world's population by 2030. So the current estimate is the Muslim population is about 1.9 to 1.2 billion population. And then by 2030, it will be about 2.3 billion. And that's one number. And the other important number, they are a young population. The median age is just 27 years, and more than 60% of them are under the age of 35. So when you look at these kind of numbers, and then also they're coming from, fast growing middle class, you see Indonesia, you see Turkey, the middle class is growing at a rapid pace. And all this means that whatever the growth trajectory going to be, I mean, that's another question that we all don't know yet for sure. Within that growth trajectory, Muslim market will still be a very significant market. And of course, the Chinese market as well, which is why we're talking about it now. So that's the second point that I wanted to stress on. Third one, which is, I think it's, because this market has been given so many names in the industry when it comes to, people call it at halal travel, halal tourism, Muslim travel, Muslim tourism, and in some parts of the world, it's also called Sharia tourism, Ziyarah tourism, it's a whole bunch of numbers. And then you add to the confusion by adding this word in the middle as well. But what I tell the stakeholders is, don't worry about these namings and all that. At the end of the day, it's about Muslims traveling for leisure and business, and catering to their needs. We generally prefer to use this term, Muslim-friendly travel, or sometimes we use also the term halal-friendly travel or tourism. So just to sort of make all of you understand that, don't get confused by the different types of namings that different countries are having to target this market. Why they are using some of these namings is mainly to do with their local context. Some use certain terms because it fits well with their local ways that they define certain market segments and certain preferences and behaviors. So that's number 3. Number 4, I think this is very important. I think no Muslims, although I'm going to talk a little bit about their faith-based needs, Muslims are traveling like any other travelers. They're traveling for leisure, they're traveling for VFR, they're traveling for business. It's no different from other travelers. They want to explore the world like any other traveler. The only difference is that they just still want to preserve their values and keeping their identity intact while they travel. That's the only difference. So they're not, I keep saying they're not going to London to go and find a mosque and pray 5 times a day. That's the intent of traveling to London, or go to a beach resort and do something religious. That's not the intent. Of course, they are going like anybody else in terms of exploring the world, the culture, the cuisine. That's what they're traveling for. So that's, I think, very important, because sometimes at least in some circles, it gets sort of misconstrued as what's this halal travel or Muslim travel all about. So that's number 4. Number 5. So I think, as I said, Muslims are traveling for leisure, business, they want to explore the world, want to explore the cuisine, want to explore the culture. But at the same time, they want to not compromise on their basic faith-based needs. And we have built this model since almost 10 years now. What are Muslim travelers' faith-based needs? And we have also categorized them into 3 categories. Need to have, that's priority 1, that any destination who wants to target this market must try and cater to these needs. Second is, these are good to have ones. It's good to have, it'll attract a certain segment because of that. And nice to have is a niche market within the Muslim market who are looking for those kind of services. So when it comes to need to have, halal food is an absolute necessity. You need to have access to halal food. You need to have access to, easy access to prayer facilities, as for most of them at least. And one of the things probably you're not aware, we don't have the time to sort of go into that, what we call water-friendly washrooms, because Muslims have an etiquette of using water when they go to the washrooms, toilets. And also, there's another thing that we in our surveys, that the Muslims don't want to go into a place where there is, perception of Islamophobia. The second, that's need to have, and I'm going to briefly cover the food part in my next couple of slides. Good to have is the ability to cater to them during the month of fasting, because month of fasting means that they can't eat during the day. They eat, before sunrise and after sunset. And more of them are also looking at social causes. I think these are trend beyond the Muslim community. People, as I think. Professor also mentioned meaningful tourism. It's links to that. People are looking for social causes, how local experiences, how do they give back to the community. I think that's probably relevant beyond the Muslim travelers. Nice to have 2 things. Some Muslim travelers are looking for places like, let me say, no non-halal activities. Like, for instance, they're looking for hotels where they don't serve alcohol, but this is a small niche of travelers who are looking for those kind of services. And there are some who are also looking for recreational facilities, which provides privacy. So that's sort of our faith-based Muslim traveler model. I don't have much time to sort of go into the details. We also have, how, strictly practicing Muslims may require all these of them. Less practicing Muslims are probably only concerned more about the food and maybe a little bit of the prayer facilities. So it's from very important to not very important when you look at this. So it's a whole training module we have on this one, so I won't have time to go through all that. And also it's number 6 is to these kind of faith-based needs. We need to have it across all the touch points, so that we don't want a Muslim, if you're really targeting the Muslim market, you don't want a Muslim traveler to come to your city and worry about where to eat, because you want them to spend money on on enjoying the experiences that you have. So across the touch points, you need to try and see how you can provide these services and facilities. One other thing that we need to, I think is very important. The thing is that you of course you provide these services during their trip, during the experiencing their trip, but also important is that they need to be discovered before. So if you have halal food, and especially for the younger generation, it has to be discoverable when they are doing the research online. So some people say, I have hundreds of halal food restaurants, but if they are not discoverable online when the Muslim travelers are planning their trip, especially the millennials, it doesn't really help. So you need to make sure that your Muslim-friendly services and facilities are discoverable during their discovery and booking phase. And that's where all the digital content comes into play, and also post-experience, of course, because the Muslim travelers will, if they really like the Muslim-friendly experiences that you have, they will definitely share it with others, with their colleagues, their family, and then you need to try and make sure that they do with a level of post-experiences that you can provide, enable them with. So that's number 8. I said I will touch upon the food because that is the single most concern. At the end of the day, if somebody is hungry, they're not going to enjoy the destination, So there are many ways of assuring halal food for restaurants. The best way is, of course, get a certification by your local certification body. They might also consider if it's not certified, but it's Muslim owned, managed, there's certain level of confidence that they provide, they can, they can be comfortable in eating in those places. Strictly vegetarian. In some countries, they say, okay, our restaurants, no pork, no lard, so we don't serve pork or we don't serve lard. So our food is, suitable for you. And some say, restaurants serving pork, but also claim some foods are okay for Muslims. So I have said, if you see the slide, it's this part is probably 100% acceptable for Muslims. As you go down the scale, it becomes less and less acceptable for Muslim travelers. As you go down here, it's almost zero. Most Muslims, a very, very small number of Muslims will go to such restaurants which say, restaurants who serve pork, but also claim to serve halal food. We do our own ranking or rating of restaurants. So we have our own rating system to rate restaurants on how they assure halal food. So if you want more information, you can find it on CrescentRating.com. Number 9, it's, although I said these are requirements, they are not a homogeneous market. They are, when it comes to faith-based needs, you have a lot of shared faith-based needs, shared values. But if you want to really understand the market, as any market, you need to dig deep on what's the generation, what's the demographics, are they traveling with families, how are you targeting the strictly practicing segment or the practicing segment, are they coming from Southeast Asia? So I think it's you need to really go deeper into understanding the profiles if you're really targeting the market in different segments of the market. My last point is, this is what we do a lot of work with a lot of tourism boards across the world. And these are the 3 areas that we work with. One is education. Education is key. I think most of the misconceptions, misunderstandings come because the industry is not really aware of what the market is, what are their requirements, how to cater to them. And it's not rocket science, actually. You really can cater to them with very small changes to how you provide your services. Then we also help, capability and capacity building, and then marketing and promotion. Just a couple of some resources for all of you. If you want more information, you can, we have been releasing many reports since 2015 with MasterCard, almost 20 reports on different segments of the market, deep dives into different profiles as well. So please feel free to go to CrescentRating.com and download these reports. They're all, free of charge. We have a mobile, our consumer platform is called HalalTrip. So if you want more information for consumers, like you want to know the prayer times for customers, this kind of stuff, there is a whole bunch of tools for travelers and for businesses to help travelers. And then, as I said, we do a lot of work with tourism boards on education, capacity building, and marketing and promotion. So thank you very much, Sumaira. Back to you.
Thank you, Fazal. Every time I listen to you, I keep learning something new about this segment. Fazal, also, I think, which is very important, I think, to mention here, that you have certain Muslim markets which are not just halal friendly, but also there is a potential to get them to travel to other countries. So YouGov and Expedia found that UAE residents take the United Arab Emirates, okay, residents take an average of 4 vacations per year, and 86% of travel for leisure at least once a year. So whilst this is a very Muslim-friendly destination, everybody knows about Dubai and Abu Dhabi and the great investment in tourism that they are making. Perhaps they are the only destination in the world right now, a tourism destination that is open to the world without any quarantine, without any of the COVID hang-ups at the moment. But at the same time, here's a market that has a potential to be developed for other markets as well. And it's a very small market when you compare it to Indonesia, to Malaysia, or where you have some large, or Saudi Arabia, large Muslim population. So it's a two-way street. They're not only that you can visit these destinations for halal tourism, but also invite people vice versa from these destinations, attract them.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I think actually the GCC market represents almost 40% of the Muslim outbound market. Although the population itself is smaller because of the spending power, definitely. So they have been actually the driving force of the growth that I showed from year 2000 to 2018, 2020, because they are the main drivers. Of course, now you have the last 3-4 years, you have seen a surge from places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey, because the middle class is growing and all that. So I think still the GCC market contributes a huge percentage, almost up to 40% of the Muslim outbound market. So destinations like Malaysia, UAE, especially Malaysia and UAE, to a certain extent Indonesia and Turkey, they are both high potential Muslim outbound and Muslim inbound markets, both. Yeah.
And from my own personal experience, having lived in North America, I was like really surprised. This is for some of our audience who haven't experienced it before. The staggering sizes of these groups. They travel in massive groups of 800, 600, 700 people, and a lot of Muslim travelers from North America. Of course, they are going to Hawaii, and they're going to Mexico or North American segments. But there's a huge potential also to invite, although those are not Muslim countries, but they've got huge, large Muslim populations, and they travel in those big groups. So it's to be seen how that whole segment evolves in the post-COVID era.
Yeah, no, I think that's another good point. A lot of people don't realize US to a certain extent, but definitely Western Europe. Western Europe has a huge Muslim travel market. France, Germany, UK. These three countries have quite a considerable Muslim population, and especially the third generation of them are traveling like Europeans. They are not anymore going back. I mean, the first generation, second generation probably went back to where they came from. The third generation probably getting disconnected from where they came from, but they are behaving like any other European traveler, of course, with their own faith-based needs. So the European Muslim market is probably getting close to, I would say, 8 to 10% of the Muslim outbound market now.
Okay. All right. I think that's almost bringing us towards the end of this program. There are some questions in the chat boxes. I can see those. And so I've got the first one here. Greetings from Bangladesh. That's from Fazal Razu. And he's basically saying that Bangladesh has a huge potential for his segment. And Fazal, I'm just trying to understand your question. So he's given information about himself that I guess there's a potential to develop both the segments there.
The question is at the bottom. Do you have any plans to attract Muslim tourists to Bangladesh?
Okay, I just saw that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to attract Muslim tourists to Bangladesh? I think, some of the Muslim, I mean, this is I have to be a bit, straightforward with this question. I think some of the Muslim countries, unfortunately, believe that just because they are Muslim countries, Muslim friendly, the Muslims are going to jump in a plane and come and visit their country. Tourism doesn't happen that way. I think like any other, if you see the efforts that destinations like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, even Australia, even New Zealand put the amount of effort to target the Muslim travelers, you will be amazed. They're creating guides, they're creating marketing collaterals, they are putting money on digital promotions. However, you don't see that happening from NTOs in predominantly, except for Malaysia and Indonesia. I mean, that's why they are where they are. If you look at I don't want to go into countries' names, but if you look at the general Muslim, except for Malaysia, Indonesia, to a certain extent, Turkey is beginning to do that now as well. Many other markets, I think they have to wake up to the reality. Just because you're a Muslim country, you don't expect them to run around and come. You need to still sell the destination. And just because you're a Muslim country doesn't mean that you are Muslim friendly. Also, because your tourism industry was not catering to this market. Your tourism industry for the last 40 years was catering to a different segment altogether. So I think it's the work needs to be done.
Yes, maybe if I also can jump in. I think from the two presentations, Fazal, thank you very much for the great presentation, also from me, and my little presentation. I think it's clear that, of course, the Chinese market and the Muslim market are, we talk about different people mostly, but the structure is the same. So if you do something for these markets and you talk about it, I think that was an important point. It's not enough to have halal food, you have to tell people about it. So if you do something and talk about this in the right way, then you can attract people. It's not enough and less so to say, wow, we are a famous destination, so therefore everybody will come. So at the beginning, for the Chinese market, Paris was the most famous destination, Paris and maybe London. So all the Chinese wanted to go there. But now they have done that. So now if you don't give them a reason, they don't come back. And I think it is now for the Chinese market, for instance, to accept mobile payment, to accept Alipay and WeChat Pay. This is almost now a must do. So if you don't accept mobile payment, they go somewhere else. It's not a religious thing, but simply in China, there's almost no cash anymore. So this is what they are used to. And I think this is the point, Fazal, I fully agree with you that so don't think people will come automatically. And I think less and less so, because the competition is growing and more other people get wiser and are offering special services. And so I think this is something, I mean, in the end, it's a good old customer orientation. So we are basically saying this, you have to understand your customer, and then you have to cater to the customer what the customers want. So, and it is, it's not a question if you're a Muslim or you're not a Muslim. So if your customers want halal food, well, we have to give them halal food. If the Chinese want to pay with their mobile phone, they don't like cash, then okay, you have to give them the opportunity. So that is quite a simple thing. But I think the problem really has been, and I would say, is not enough understanding the market. So your example, Fazal, that Western Europe is a major Muslim source market. This is a very good example. I mean, talking about religion, China is the fourth biggest Christian country in the world. So there are about 80 million Christians in China. And many of them are middle-class urban people with money, so potential international travelers. So this is something which, but if you talk to people about China, nobody ever comes up with this idea, okay, we have to do something. But if you see before the pandemic, places like Bethlehem in Israel or in the Palestine areas, so lots of Chinese people go there because they're interested in what officially is called Christian culture in China. You don't talk about religion, but so this is, of course, that is why you need to understand the market more. And as far as I said, yeah, so I grew up in West Berlin. 10% of the people in West Berlin are Turkish people, but many of them are exactly third generation, so they are Turkish-German mixture. So that is exactly their demand is certainly different from somebody coming from Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. If are there any other? There's a comment by.
I think there's one question by Turanam Lalu, who is also still with us, so we shouldn't not answer that one. Which is, hi all. will healthcare preventive interventions be incorporated in destination management in days to come? So this is from the Berkeley Haas School of Business. So this is what I think the short-term question of post-pandemic. Well, unfortunately, we are not really yet post-pandemic. The virus is still very much alive. So what will be how important will be this healthcare preventive interventions, probably rather in the short term? I don't know, Fazal, do you want to answer that?
I think, we are actually, I'm jumping my report here. So we are developing some models for our report, which we are going to release in July. And we think there is this model, which is now, and it has been mentioned by different people also. One is, what is it? Prevention. So you need to have a prevention, complete, managing a destination from a prevention point of view. Second is detection. So if something gets through the prevention, how do you detect it? So that's the next ring. We need to have a destination, have a very substantial ways of detecting. And the third is control. So you pass the prevention, you detect as quickly as possible. If you detect, how do you control? So I think we are building the model for our next report. So and we have given the IP now. So these are the three things that we are looking at, how destinations could, apart from other talking about the health environment here. So it's prevention, which is the outer circle. Then I think, in prevention, in terms of, many things that you could look at in terms of prevention, in terms of detection. Are you going to have self DIY testing? How often are you going to test? Where are you going to test? How fast is the test? And then, of course, controlling. How are you, your contact tracing apps. Those kind of stuff. So there are a number of, prevention, of course, is vaccination. That's the top of the pile, right? So the prevention. So that's the model I think that destinations should seriously look at. Prevention, detection, and control.
Yeah, I would certainly, of course, I would agree to that. And I think maybe just to add that, but the point is, I think the aim, unfortunately, cannot be to go to zero COVID-19 cases in the world. This is with us now, like the common flu is with us for the next 10,000 years. It will not go away. But fortunately, with all the resources which have been brought for the vaccination, and then of course the next step is also medication. That if you get it, that there is medicine which keeps you from dying from it. So I think there's a point in the discussion. Sometimes it's that people are saying, oh, we can only start tourism again if we are at zero cases. And I think this is like sitting on the side of the river and waiting that the water stops flowing. That will never happen. So it is something where we probably, that will be the next maybe half year, the discussion will come to the point that it is, as long as you are vaccinated and the majority of people you meet are vaccinated, and there is some healthcare and as you said, control and reaction to if something happens, then this will be something where the international tourism market can be started. So you see some destinations, so they spring into action because they have one case or two cases, which from a European perspective looks like a luxury problem. But I think it will be, I'm quite optimistic that, and all the surveys I think show that most people in the world who have the money to travel internationally, they want to travel internationally. And also, maybe last point to make, also we had this on your slide. We're not only talking about leisure. So it is, traveling is not just for leisure. There are a lot of people who travel for business. There are a lot of people who travel for family affairs, so visiting friends and relatives. And so for the Chinese market, certainly there are a lot of Chinese students overseas who have not been able to go home for Chinese New Year, so where the parents and the kids, understood they have not seen each other for 1.5 years or something. So, and there is an eagerness also of the parents maybe to come and visit their child studying abroad. And of course, there are a lot of there's a lot of investment, a lot of companies, and they need to do the business, and so we all need to have meetings beyond Zoom, as nice and as convenient it is to do something as we're doing now. But of course, we are all, I think, craving for coming back to real face-to-face meetings, and that's the same for Muslim people. That's the same for Chinese people, like for everybody else.
So we are reaching the end of this webinar, but I just have to, there is one comment, I think is from Jitesh. Indeed, Japan is having the best example for Olympics. And I think he means in the context of, I'm not quite sure that in what context he means that, but perhaps in the context of Muslim travelers attending there, I'm not, or the Chinese, I'm not sure in what context.
But I think that's also about the health question, and of course, so we can make we can make a bet today if the Tokyo Olympics will take place in as a time or not. I'm not so optimistic for that one. We will see.
Yeah, and I have one direct comment has come to me, okay, and here they are saying ecotourism is considered the biggest land use transformation. You know, so however, it is hard to keep the balance between profit and sustainable management. How does this apply to both the Muslim and the Chinese traveler? Just very quick, sharp answers, gentlemen. We are running out of time here now. But starting with Fazal.
So I think what we should understand, you know, I am also, you know, not optimistic. I want. So I have been struggling with this phrase. Don't pretend to be a local, you know, be a tourist, but be a responsible tourist. You know, trying to be local, I don't think it's a cultural appropriation to a certain extent, you know. So I think one thing which tourism destinations can exploit is probably the word that I need to use, unfortunately, is the Muslim travelers. You know, within their DNA, it's, you know, they want to give back to the community. It's in the DNA, right? You know, you want to give back to the community, you want to give back, help others. So I think that's where you need to tap into. So whether it's, you know, what type of tourism is a different matter altogether. But, you know, that's where we need to tap into, you know, how do you encourage them to, how do you you know, exploit their wanting to give back to the community when they travel.
Thank you. And Professor from the Chinese.
Yes. Thank you. So yeah, I would say something similar. In the past, Chinese tourists have been infamous for not caring about the environment, for famously breaking off corals and things like that, and then throwing trash around. But what we can see is that two things. One, especially for the younger generation, there is a much higher level of green ideas and taking care of ecological questions. This is one thing. But the other is also, that is one part of meaningful tourism is that if you feel that you are welcomed in a host community and that you have some interaction with them, of course, not becoming a local, yes. Chinese are not having this idea, but that you feel like you are a friend, a welcomed friend, what hospitality originally meant, then also you will take more care about the environment of your friends. As long as you go there and you think, okay, these guys, I pay them money and they give me service and I will be here 2 days in my life and never come back. Why should I care? So I can walk across the grass. What's the matter? So that gave many Chinese tourists actually a bad name in the past. So if you can, with good products and with a spirit of welcoming them and making them embedded in the community, you will also make them feel okay, more responsible for the environment, and certainly the question is how the energy is produced, they're consuming and stuff like that. This has become more and more an issue in the Chinese market now as well.
Thank you. There is another comment here. Is it possible to form an alliance with the representative of Unbound Tour and tour operators in Muslim countries? Then the exchange of Muslim tourism in other Muslim countries of Asia, including Chinese Muslim tourism, would be easier. Fazal, do you want to comment on that?
I think there are many, actually. I have seen many such organizations bringing together and all that. I think I'm not sure how effective they are, but there are organizations. I mean, just drop us an email or something, and I can sort of send you some information on that. Yeah.
And the final one is from Balazia saying, it seems everything comes down to education, where as somebody who has been 20 years working as a professor, of course, I can only say, yes, I fully agree. That is, of course, it is education, it is understanding, and it is, I would also add to this, curiosity. So being interested in your guests, being interested in understanding them, so which is not only good business, it is also interesting for your life to meet people from other places. So the first sentence of the first chapter of the major book of Confucius, the Analects, starts with the sentence, what a joy it is to learn new things, what a joy it is to welcome friends from afar. So education and hospitality, according to Confucius, these are the two main nice things in life.
Yeah, Sumaira, just one sentence. I think, especially when it comes to Muslim travel market, I think there is nothing more that you need to do than education first, because education is the single most stumbling block in increasing your Muslim visitors to your destination.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been very informative. I keep learning from these two gentlemen. I just go on listening to them, because the potential of these two segments and the opportunity to do something differently, is immense. And so here we are, talking about it. But I think the time of application, the opportunity to apply is now, hopefully, we've peaked now with this virus and is there. So I've just seen from our studio back end that our website and YouTube channel will have this webinar posted there. For easy viewing, and we will hopefully, be able to drive more traffic to this then. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you everybody for attending, and to all the participants and to the team behind the scenes who's been helping to make this possible. I personally believe that this topic is so critical and so important that we need to do more in-depth webinars on that in the future, and we'll try to announce dates much in advance so that more listeners and viewers can benefit from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.